In the last 10 days, I've had 2 posts crack 100,000 impressions. It's already led to 3 actual conversations just from that post where I've got people on the phone. It's actually bringing out people I've never met before this quickly. And one of the things that's really stark for me is it really feels great to have that support where I'm not just trying to do all the things that every business owner has to do, but having the FounderBrands team really kind of spearhead the marketing effort.
Okay, thanks for hopping on with us, Phil. Why don't you tell the audience who you are, what your business does, and we'll get started there.
Sure. I'm Phil Fitzgerald. I'm the founder of Amplify Consulting Services. I'm a former investment banker. I worked on both buy-side and sell-side deals for over 20 years. And I started my own business in 2020, and Amplify is basically focused on helping small business owners plan and prepare for M&A transactions. So I work with a lot of founder and family-owned businesses. Really, the focus is on the 6, 12, 24 months before you might sell your company or in the lead up to buying a company, preparing for the process. So a lot of document organization, putting together materials and financial models, and really helping business owners be ready for what it takes to get an M&A deal done.
Awesome. And you've been working with us at FounderBrands for about how long now?
Just about 2.5 months. We started talking in August. We turned the lights on in mid-September.
Awesome. Okay. Walk me through your content creation process before you started working with FounderBrands. What were you doing? What kind of success were you having? That kind of thing.
Yeah. So what content creation process? A solopreneur. So a lot of my marketing was a little bit scattershot. And what I realized at some point was that was not going to work to win new clients, to meet new people, to see new opportunities. So the thing I really wanted to get out of the FounderBrands relationship was primarily some systematic approach to things. So having a plan for when things were going to be posted, themes and styles of content, that was something that's completely foreign to me. On LinkedIn in particular, I had a reasonably sizable presence, something like 1,500 followers, give or take, or connections, I guess is the right word. But I was randomly posting things when I had a blog post that I was putting together for my brand or something like that. It wasn't really organized or planned. It was much more when I had some time. And what I realized is that was never going to be a long-term strategy. A friend of mine, someone who I had met through some other connections, was working with you guys, and he recommended that I speak with you. And really, the conversation was very eye-opening in that there's not necessarily a right way to do things, but you have to do something. And there was not something going on within Amplify. So, really what I've gotten out of the relationship as base level is a plan and an approach, which I didn't have before. And I think one of the things that's been super helpful is that I'm getting visibility on content days, if not weeks in advance, which allows me to plan a lot more. So I don't spend the entire day thinking about what am I going to say to my 1,500 connections on LinkedIn. That's kind of in there for 7, 10, 15 days. And I can start working on systematically having a couple minutes every morning or a couple of hours every week, looking at what's suggested and really working on getting that message out there. And I think the process is a little bit iterative in some respects, but it's really helpful that we have a conversation to get the ideas out of here and onto the HTML, for lack of a better description.
Yeah. And the process has to be iterative because every person is different, right? So we don't go in and put everyone into a cookie cutter system. We have to build a system around each client. So let me ask you, if you were to do everything that we're doing on your own, so all the ideating, the drafting, the posting, the analyzing, how much time, let's say, per week do you think we save you?
Oh, boy. I mean, first of all, remember, I wasn't doing any of this before. So there was no benchmark to say, okay, this is this many hours it's being invested and I've shrunk it down. But I can tell you with some level of confidence, I wouldn't be able to post every single day without some kind of a plan for Monday, I'm going to sit down and spend 3 hours writing. Tuesday, I'm going to spend 2 hours editing. Thursday, Friday, I'm going to spend a couple hours following up and planning for the next week. I think the ideation and the process that the team has really executed for me has been super efficient, is a really good word for it. I spend probably on a daily basis an hour or two just kind of looking at the upcoming posts to make sure that I understand what's on the horizon. I spend more of my time once things are up and running, really focusing on interaction and engagement. My editorial process, if that's a word I'd want to use, a few minutes here, a few minutes there, because it's mostly my words being repurposed and reorganized in the content. So I might tweak a few things here and there. I might go back and forth with my team, but it's not a heavy investment of effort and time in the same way that it would be if I was doing it on my own. So minutes instead of hours is how I describe it.
Gotcha. Okay. What are some results that you've seen so far in terms of follower growth, conversations that you've been having, impressions growth? I've got your analytics tracker pulled up. I can walk you through some of the data, but yeah, just your anecdotal evidence, I guess. What have you noticed?
Yes, I mean, a couple things. Like I said, I had a reasonably sizable presence on LinkedIn before. It wasn't an active presence, but I had 1,500 connections or something like that. I've been on the platform for a very long time. And what I've noticed is that, first of all, the number of people who've viewed my profile on a monthly basis, or the 90-day trailing, because I know that's what they show as the standard analytics, I was seeing something like 75 to 90 profile views, 90-day rolling basis historically for forever, even when I posted things of my own volition historically. As we've engaged through September, October, and now part of November, I can tell you that the number I look at today is 2,400 trailing 90-day profile views. So when we started in mid-September, I think we were around 14,000 impressions on a trailing basis. After 2+ months of working together, posting every single day, being consistent in terms of engagement, my LinkedIn impressions are at 360 something thousand. Just in the month of November, with still a week or two to go. And it's a monumental increase in terms of visibility. And then the one metric that I want to throw out, because it is absolutely insane, the highest number of engagements or views, I should say, impressions that I got in a post before this past couple weeks, 10, 15,000, and it was pretty impressive, a lot of people. In the last 10 days, I've had 2 posts crack 100,000 impressions, one of which is still going at 202,000 impressions today. I think I'm at 115 likes, or whatever the engagement metric is called, and something like 45 or 50 comments. Obviously 15 or 20 of those are mine in response, but not even a heavy duty, thoughtful, well planned out, targeted, we're trying to accomplish this thing post. It was just a story of something that happened in a engagement that I worked on a couple of years back, and it just seems to have struck a chord. But when you add the fact that it struck a chord to the visibility that clearly 90 viewers to 2,400 viewers, there's a meaningful increase of who's seeing me in the right time in the right place. But it's also anecdotally who specifically is seeing me. I'm talking to folks from my past 10, 15, 20 years of work, as well as folks who personally know me. So it's a little bit too unlikely that it's coincidental that former colleagues, former partners, former college friends, personal friends. I'd love to say that, yeah, it just so happens that all these people have found me. It's not possible. It's too many coincidental things. And clearly the visibility is a big thing on LinkedIn, because I'm using LinkedIn primarily as a bit of a channel in some respects. My clients aren't necessarily as active on LinkedIn as they might be in other places, but great. I'm speaking to channel partners like lawyers, bankers, accountants, who are definitely in my ecosystem, and I can tell the visibility is there.
Awesome. Something I like to say is at the beginning, which we are still at the beginning, 2.5 months in, it's people in your network who already know you. That's the low hanging fruit. And then months 4, 5, 6, that's where the reach starts to expand and your network expands and you build new relationships over that time period. And that seems like exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, that's a great point, because the post that hit 200,000 impressions over the last couple of days, I keep thinking it's going to slow down, but I keep getting more and more people commenting or liking it and things like that. And if I look at the people who've commented, there's not a single person I know. It's pretty crazy. I mean, nobody from my past, nobody from experience that I've had. It's just people who are engaging with the content. And, some of it's there's a couple of trolls in there. There's somebody who actually posted something quite profane, which I think maybe had been an accident, but I deleted that one. But when it's all said and done, it's people who are engaging with the ideas because they don't know me. And it's already led to 3 actual conversations just from that post, where I've got people on the phone. One is going to be Tuesday because we couldn't line up a time before, but I spoke to somebody yesterday. I was speaking to somebody this morning about it. It's actually bringing out conversations that I wouldn't have thought would happen with people I've never met before this quickly, which is kind of cool. I do think that the general people in my network are seeing it too. I can tell because I'm getting impressions from them, getting thumbs ups, etc. but the conversation is happening with folks I've never met before, which is kind of what I was hoping we would accomplish. I'll see new people, they'll see me, and we'll start to engage.
Definitely. You're getting to that stage in your personal branding process where it starts to get really fun. So this is exciting. How have you seen a difference in how people perceive you and your personal brand? You touched on this a bit, but like, can you drive a little more deeper? Like, how are they perceiving you now?
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought of myself as a subject matter expert. So, so you've got that element of personal view. But when it comes down to it, I definitely get the sense that there are folks who are hearing my ideas and the way I think about my business and the types of work I do and validating it in a lot of ways. So I think I don't want to say it's an echo chamber because that's not fair. I think there is a community out there that thinks very similar to me and is also willing to share their perspectives. It's a lot less of me being convinced that I'm right and having no way to validate that. When I'm having these conversations through the comments and through the actual one-on-one conversations that are developing, I'm starting to get a little bit of a sense that there is mind share out there in the way that I approach things, the way I work with certain clients, because I do work with a different type of client than your large bulge bracket investment bank type service provider. There is an element of, okay, yes, that's how it should be done, and I'm getting confidence that folks are viewing things similarly to me, and it's very validating.
Awesome. That's super great to hear. What surprised you about working with FounderBrands?
I'd say honestly how easy it is. First of all, the team is great, very good client interface, a lot of really smart people who have much better experience in understanding how social media particularly works. Also, I have zero background in marketing, so personal marketing is something I don't have a lot of understanding of. And broadly speaking, I might understand what the concept is, but no execution expertise. And one of the things that's really stark for me is as a solopreneur, having that ability to say someone is kind of driving the process and I just have to participate in it instead of finding fully dedicated time and resources to do it myself. It really feels great to have that support where I'm not just trying to do one more thing, accounting, finance, HR type stuff, tax work, all the things that every business owner has to do and often has a team for it. It's hard. I mean, you see my team around me right here. There's no one here but me doing it. But having the FounderBrands team really kind of spearhead the marketing effort, for lack of a better description, it's incredibly liberating because it gives me time to focus on other things while still not ignoring the marketing idea. One of the biggest challenges I face is that when I wake up in the morning, I either execute or I work on the back office stuff. It's hard to do both of those things at the same time because every time I work on back office stuff, I'm not executing for a client. Every time I execute for a client, I don't have time to put that aside and do some back office work. And marketing is one of those critical things that if I don't do that, I find myself in this cycle of working on something. Well, when that project ends, there's no active business and I got to go find something, which means invest time and effort on the marketing front. This is a bit of a way to kind of do things in parallel instead of in serial.
So that's the classic cliche of working on the business versus in the business, right? So we want to free up your time to continue working where your highest value is. So we're going to work in the business on the marketing and drive you more leads eventually over time, build those relationships, build that reputation. That's what our goal is. And that's what we're doing and what's going to continue to happen.
Yeah, and Colin, one of the things I've really been impressed by is I could do what you do based on everything you've taught me, everything you showed me, everything the team has organized for me. I could do it tomorrow if I just spend time on it, but then I'll never get anything else done. So it really makes a difference to have the team in there to really do these things, kind of on my behalf, but I know that they're also competent and the messaging is going to be good. They're going to give me that 85% of the way head start, and I can put the finishing touches on certain things. It doesn't go by the wayside. It doesn't cost me hours every day. It doesn't come at the expense of other things I could be doing. It's now part of my daily process as opposed to something that, well, when I have time, I'll get to it. Or if I don't have something that's more urgent, I'll be able to focus on it. It's now part of the system as opposed to something that's completely siloed off on one half or the other.
Yeah, exactly. Buy back your time. That's what we like to say. And that's what you either spend the time or you spend the money to buy back the time.
Well, in this case, I'm able to do both. I spend a little bit of money and I'm also spending a little bit of time, but it's all in service of something that's a lot more efficient now.
Definitely. So let me ask you this. How do you feel when you see your content now compared to before? So you were posting occasionally before or not very often, but maybe let's talk about quality. How's the quality changed?
Yeah, so the quality's great because I think what it's drawing out is a different approach to content. I've always been a believer in the personal brand. I mean, if you look at the way my company is structured, the name of the company, Amplify, is based on my family. My wife's name, my daughter's name are in the initials there. So I think about it as kind of my messaging out there has got to be a little bit different than clinical, traditional, financial services oriented marketing. It doesn't work that way for you look at my office. I'm not sitting in a giant building on Park Avenue. What I am doing is trying to bring my personal expertise and my experience to bear for my clients. And I think the approach that you all take in helping me put that out there is very consistent with how I view things. So that part has been very easy to translate. I don't have to think, wow, it's really unnatural for me to tell my story. It's actually quite natural. And the team is really good at hearing my story and putting it into words that also now resonate with the audience out there. Again, the audience being folks that I'm trying to win as business, as clients. There's got to be a trust factor. There's got to be a level of credibility. And I think the approach is very consistent with how I try to think about achieving those things. And another word I'll use, and this is probably a little bit PG-13, but when I see the level of engagement on the posts that I'm putting up, especially on LinkedIn, I think on X I have some work to do, but on LinkedIn, without any question, the words I use very frequently are "holy shit."
I love it. That's so great.
And my daughter's coming in, so I got to be a little careful. I use that word in front of her.
Yeah, we won't tell her. That's awesome. I want to ask you about the content recording. So we do one content recording once per month to get that source content from you to create world-class social media posts. How has that process been?
It's been great. It feels like a conversation. Stephanie in particular has been really helpful in listening and hearing and taking out the ideas and not just saying, tell me a story and let's see what you say. She definitely does her homework in advance so that when we sit down and we talk, the conversation starts with maybe a question that she's thinking about. And she's looked at the previous content. She's looked at the trajectory of the discussion, and she's ready to kind of draw out the next theme. And what it means is that instead of sitting there and me trying to think, okay, well, what should I say? And how do I want to do? We just have a conversation. And the conversation has a little bit of a plan, but it's very natural and easy to discuss things. And if we get down a path where it's a little bit technical, we step back and we work through the nuances. But it just feels like talking to an old friend, which is a very easy way to get ideas out from my head and my experience into text format or something like that. So I feel like it's been very low friction, if that's a good way to describe it. It's not like, oh, I have to spend hours and hours thinking about how that recording is going to go. I just sit down and I have a chat with Stephanie and we go for an hour, and the next thing I know, there's 25 posts ready to go.
It's a great system for sure. And you're great clients because you give us all this great content. So I want to kind of a little bit take this full circle. We have this service for you and it's getting results, but why is growing on social? Why is growing your personal brand so important to you?
Yeah, twofold. I mean, one, this is my business, right? So I need to have some level of visibility. I need to take it seriously and make sure people can see me. And I work in a service business. So being able to have that one-on-one trust as a solopreneur, someone needs to be able to say, I've heard what Phil has to say. I've heard his perspectives on things. I think he can help me. And I trust that this first conversation is going to lead to a relationship. I can't do that one-on-one every single day. So I need that presence out there where someone can look for me. In addition to the outbound stuff I do myself, it's a prong in the fork, for lack of a better term, or a spear in the trident. I have to have multiple ways to communicate to clients. And on top of that, I think there's an element in the personal services business where you have to have some level of personal credibility. And folks really need to be able to see and hear messaging from people they hire as service providers if it's not a very obvious file my tax return type clinical service. My service is not clinical. It's not to say that accountants are or that tax preparers are, but most of my work really doesn't have a template from the past time. There's something unique in every conversation I have. So being able to understand what the perspective of the client is, what's important to them, and show that I've got some ideas on that is very important to me.
Okay, awesome. At the beginning, let's go back. What made you decide to work with FounderBrands?
So first, I had a referral from a friend who had very good experience. He had a lot of good things to say. And he said, look, I think the key is that you're going to have to commit a little bit of time, effort, and money. And commit was a good word because it wasn't like, oh, in 3 weeks, we're just going to see results and see you later. This is at this point now 3 months for me, and I'm not really considering any changes. The point for me is to focus on exactly what he said, which is committing to this process. And I got that from you from our first conversation as well. You told me this is not a situation where you're going to show up in a week and we're going to have results. There will be results, but you have to commit to the process and you have to engage and be part of it and really work on the ideas and the content and the engagement. It's a two-way street. You guys will do some stuff. I have to also do some stuff. And what made me really get across the finish line, I knew I couldn't do it myself. I knew it was taking me hours when it can take basically minutes. And obviously there's a lot of work going on in the background, but it's a very different situation when I'm having a lot of support in getting the messaging out there and doing it. Again, maybe it's 85, maybe it's 90% of the way. I put a little bit of icing on the cake, but it really is something that's a lot easier to do with the support of the team because there's multiple people thinking about it. They're experts in it. I'm not an expert in it. I'm not going to try to fix my plumbing in the basement. If I see a leak, I'm going to call a plumber. That's kind of how I think about it. I need to be good at the things I'm good at. I need help where I'm not good at something or where it's not a core competency that I need to own. There's a business owner I worked with years ago who I think is a great case study. She absolutely could have done all the work in finding an investment banker herself. She could have evaluated all the folks. She hired me to run that process because she didn't need to be good at that. She needed to be good at running her business. As a former investment banker, I was able to help her put that process together, run the selection process, and get a good outcome, even though she didn't want to do the back support work to get that done. So it's a very similar philosophy. I need someone who's better at stuff to do the stuff they're better at, and I'll focus on the things I'm good at.
Awesome. So what type of person do you think is a good fit for FounderBrands?
I do think someone who is very passionate about what they do, certainly someone who has a personal brand either in place or aspirational of the type of service they provide. I do think there's a lot of alignment with service providers for sure. And when it comes down to it, I think it's someone who realizes that, again, you don't have to be an expert in everything. You have to be an expert in the things that you are focused on, the things that you're good at, and let someone who is an expert, who is systematic about things, handle some of those processes. And again, as a non-marketing expert or someone who has the time and capacity to do that, and my client work, finding someone who can do those things capably and with some level of confidence and systematic approach to it is really important to me because it takes a lot of pressure off me to try and be good at a lot of things that'll take me months or years to learn or to execute, right? Just don't have the hours in the day to be a marketing expert, handle my financials, handle my client relationships. Again, solopreneurs are really a good target market in a lot of respects, but I think it also works for larger companies too.
Yeah, it's the learning curve savings and the execution savings, all time related. Why would you recommend someone work with FounderBrands over another solution?
Well, in fairness, I don't have a lot of experience with other solutions, so it's personal experience so far has been very positive for me. So I can give you everything has gone as expected. The proof is there that engagement and visibility is what we talked about developing. It's there. I've felt it. I see it. The numbers don't lie in that respect. The key for me as it relates to why should someone choose FounderBrands over another, there's a personal element here too, right? The folks that I've met as part of the team have been very responsive, very knowledgeable, thorough in their approach. They're not afraid to ask questions and involve the rest of the team when they need a separate perspective. I feel like they're kind of right there on speed dial, for lack of a better description, because I love that term. They're on speed dial. When I have a question, when I need something, I can get the support that I need. I have yet to have a situation where I say, yeah, you know what, you're just not really hearing me. Yeah. That's a resounding endorsement, clearly.
And I appreciate that. That's all I've got for you, Phil. You've been awesome. Thank you so much for hopping on and for being a great client.
Thanks for being so supportive of me as well.